Merry Christmas to you all. It's so great to see you and to have you here tonight celebrating the birth of our Lord. To those of you online, thank you for joining us as well. We wish we could be together, but we certainly understand that it's difficult or really not smart for everyone to be joining together. We miss you and we wish you a Merry Christmas near or far. Today, as we dig into the story of the birth of Jesus, we're going to look at the Gospel of Matthew, reading from chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. The words will be on the screen or on the screen online if you'd like to follow along. Would you join me in standing as we read the word of the Lord? Starting with verse 18. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. But before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Immanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him, and took Mary home to be his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. There is a game that has swept the imaginations of young people this year. We have two gentlemen who are going to come up real fast, and we're going to give you the opportunity. If you're into this game, if you have it on your phone, we're going to play it tonight. It is a game called Among Us. I don't know if any of you here have that on your phone. Hopefully some of you do. If you have your cell phones, load it up. We're going to show a screen here real fast. There's going to be two small private games that each of these gentlemen are going to lead. And here are your codes if you'd like to join in. If you have a phone and you want to join in, RLLPMF and BEKRDF. Now, as you're potentially loading up and jumping in, I hope you are. I hope you're willing to join and play. I wonder how many of you are into like horror movies that are invasion movies, aliens or whatever. Anyone in here? Just a couple. Okay. This is basically what this is. This is an alien invasion game, but it's aliens invading aliens. You got people joining to play with you?
Yes, I've got you in that game. I got Pastor Tim.
Pastor Tim is playing. Okay. I hope I win. That's great. All right, we got 5 in both. Very good. So for those of you who don't know what's happening here, and I'm guessing if you're like over the age of 22, you may be really confused as to what's going on. Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to explain to you real fast what's happening while they play. Basically, the plot or idea of this game is this. You are an alien or a spaceman on a spaceship, and your spaceship is going down. And you are given tasks when you enter in the game in order to fix the spaceship. But one person randomly assigned at the beginning of the game is what's called the imposter. And all right. All right, very nice. So if there's 5 people in the game like this, 4 folks are trying to save the ship so it doesn't crash and they don't die. And one is the imposter who's trying to run around and undo everything that everyone else is doing. And if they're successful in undoing that, they may like undo what you've done, or they can kill you.
Very good. Dumping some more trash, baby.
Jesse's task is to take out the trash for some reason. That doesn't seem integral to the spaceship. Maybe it's, yeah. And then there's like space trash now, right? Oh, yes. Mason, you trying to identify who the imposter is? No, okay. So the imposter, whoever the imposter is running around trying to sabotage this and kill all the people who are fixing the ship. So you can either win by being the imposter and letting the ship destroy or killing everyone, or you can save the ship and out the imposter and end up winning as a team. And so it's typically the imposters versus the regular people.
So you went down like a sack of potatoes.
I died.
Yikes. I think it was Craig Sear.
Craig Sear is playing?
Playing as well.
Craig Sear is playing. This is an interesting game tonight. So I've got a few pictures to show you here just so you can get a feel for what's happening in this game if you've not seen it before. This is the idea of what a spaceship looks like. You see this yellow arrow down here at the bottom? If you have a task, that arrow could point you to one of the tasks that you have to complete so you can get around. Here you see that Lakari and Bulldog and Daryl are these spacemen or aliens playing against each other. Let's see the next one as well.
We want Pastor Turner. It was Craig Sear. He was the imposter.
Craig Sear was the imposter.
Sir.
Very nice.
Well done.
Very nice. Mason's still running around like a crazy person. Mason's looking for the kitchen. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're in Maryland or floating around Mars. Mason is looking for a kitchen. Looks like you found the cafeteria. Now you got to see where the magic's made. Is a dead body. So eventually you get to a map in this game too. You can find a map. Show us the map, Kelsey. There you go. And so this is what the spaceship looks like. And you're trying to navigate around this spaceship, running from imposters and running to tasks in order to get them complete. Have you got a winner yet, Mason?
No, I can't find the kitchen.
You can't find the kitchen.
I can't find the stove.
Yeah, you're not the imposter, are you? No. Okay, all right, good. No, exactly the opposite. Precisely the opposite. You're done. All right. Well, there we go. Thank you, Mason. So this is the basic idea of the game. And it's brought to light this invasion theme. And invasion themes are interesting, and they become popular, especially when Hollywood imagines that the American populace is nervous. And so there's all sorts of interesting data about when vampire movies are popular, when Dracula, when zombie stuff is popular, when invasion stuff is popular. And oftentimes it's about creating art that matches our fears. And so when Americans are afraid of war invasion or immigrant invasion, invasion movies get made. And so horror movies are often made in proportion to the sort of fears that Hollywood thinks America has. And it seems to me that there's two types of invasion. There's two types of invasion that causes people to wonder if invasion is happening. One is that a foreign being of some sort is very angry at us and wants to come and destroy Earth or people that it's mad at or whatever. And so that's one type of invasion movie. A foreign being is angry and wants to destroy Earth. Another kind of invasion movie or game is a foreign being that is jealous of us and wants to come and live among us and not be noticed so that they can participate in our lifestyle using up our resources without being seen or noticed. I grabbed a few invasion movies that I think are interesting that match these in different sort of ways. First of all is the movie War of the Worlds, which came out in 1953. But as interesting as that movie is, see, this is pretty good technology for 1953, don't you think? It's amazing to me when I look at invasion movies that we always imagine aliens have better gear than we do. Like, the best we have is NASA spaceships, right? That's how we get out of Earth. NASA hasn't created these things. Where are our NASA engineers? They've had 60 years of War of the Worlds to put together one of these things. And where are we, right? But even more interesting than the movie War of the Worlds, have you guys heard the story of the radio play War of the Worlds? Like the 1930s, CBS in New York put it out as a dramatic reading. And for some reason, and history isn't sure why, but the message didn't get across to listeners very well that it was a dramatic reading of an extraterrestrial invasion. And so people turned it on and thought it was a news report. And so they were listening to War of the Worlds being read and started calling into CBS, freaking out, thinking that they were narrating an actual invasion of aliens into America. That's just a different, that wouldn't happen now, right? Like you would immediately jump on the internet and double check, right? And so, but in that world, pre-TV, the imagination was such that it was possible, and people were deeply afraid. This movie was made in 1953, then Tom Cruise ruined it by remaking it. You know how it goes. Some invasion movies from when I was a child were this one, Men in Black. How many of you like this movie? I love this movie. This would be a great example of the sort of movie where aliens were trying to move in on our culture and live off of our resources, because the aliens were all hidden in plain sight. Now, I loved Men in Black, but I'm here to tell you that this week we had a funeral, and Pastor Austin and I were both dressed up in black suits, and Heather told us that we looked like Men in Black. Which is all fine and good, except that I realize I'm the old white guy in this scenario. And Austin is the good-looking young black man. I asked him if I could be Will Smith, and he said no. So is how it goes in life, I think. Another invasion movie that's great is movie Signs. Came out about 20 years ago. Mel Gibson was in it. Great M. Night Shyamalan movie where there's a twist at the end, and the whole time you think they're being invaded, but you're not real sure. They have to put the tinfoil hats on. But these movies are fascinating for many reasons, and there's usually themes behind just the reason that's given there. Invasion preys on our fears. And if I could be so frank, I've heard people talk about Jesus almost as if he's an invader. Now, they wouldn't use that words, they wouldn't call it an invasion, but there are some things about the incarnation story that match an invasion and some things that are like deeply wrong about it. Jesus is from a foreign place, heaven, not from this world, and has come to live amongst us. And so there is something that works there, but oftentimes this invasion motif, although they don't use it, they don't say it quite like this, it usually involves an angry God who's tired of the sin down here, tired of the mess, tired of the disaster that he sees on earth. And so an angry God sends Jesus into this world to sort out his anger. And then when Jesus can't sort it out, he gets put on the cross and God's anger is taken out on him so it isn't taken out on us. Now, I don't think that's exactly what's happening in the story of Christ. I don't think it's a story of an otherworldly God angry that needs to figure out how to deal with how bad we've been. And when we read the gospel stories, it seems that there's a much more pure and beautiful motivation between God acting in Jesus. Now, God certainly looks down upon the world and he sees it in chaos, in struggle, in brokenness, in sin, in hurt. He looks upon this world and he sees us consumed in our own sin, exploiting power and wealth. He sees incredible poverty in towns just like the one Mary and Joseph are called from. He sees wars, he sees empires, he sees political invasions. God sees all of the trouble of this world, and his heart is broken over it. So Israel is right in the middle of these sorts of troubles, and God is going to do something about it. And I imagine that we can look at the Old Testament and see some of these stories and get a picture for the sort of things that God could do. The invasion idea could match how God dealt with sin in the time of Noah. God looks down upon the world. They are lost in sin, doing unspeakable things to one another, exploiting each other, and the world has gone crazy. And God is angry, and so God sends the devastation of a flood down and wipes everything out. God is probably in a place when Jesus came that he was as frustrated with how his people are behaving as he was in the time of Noah. The frustration probably matches. And as tempting as I think, if I could put myself in God-sized shoes, I get the flood, man. You guys can't have nice things, you're out of here. But God has made a promise that he's no longer going to destroy humanity. God's wrath will be dealt with in a different way. And so the idea of destroying the earth is ruled out. So another Old Testament story begins to emerge as a way that God acts. Think back to the Exodus, if you will. God's people are in bondage. They're hurting, they're struggling. They may not be behaving right, they may not be worshiping well, but God's heart breaks for the bondage that they're in. And so God decides he's going to do something to lift them out of their bondage. And he raises up Moses, and he sends Moses into Egypt. And Moses proclaims that they will be set free into a promised land. And Moses does this prophetic work to lead them out of their bondage. And God acts only because we're told in the book of Exodus that God hears the groaning of his people. They don't offer brilliant prayers. They aren't articulate. Their worship isn't beautiful. God hears them in pain and suffering and strife. And God acts on their behalf and sets them free towards a promised land. This seems to be the motif that God is now acting out of after the flood in a world where he no longer will punish by destroying his people. God sets us free. But this time God needs to act bigger than he did in Egypt. God isn't just going to raise up a prophet. God decides he's going to come and dwell with us. And so, not like in an invasion, this is an incarnation. Rather than coming down and taking over and setting us straight, God comes and experiences our life as we experience it. And God doesn't just simply come down here and put on a skin suit and act as if he is like us. He chooses to be born in the most lowly of circumstances that this world could possibly imagine. In abject poverty, to unmarried parents, in a faraway place, born in a stable, placed in a manger. God is born in such humble circumstances that our beginnings can't possibly match to it. God has been born in a much lower hand given to him than any of us were born into. His difficulties in birth, being born in such low estate, give God the opportunity to have a robust experience of the difficulties that this human life can offer. He has not come to set things straight solely. He has come to experience our life in its lowly estate so that he can make holy the flesh that our lives dwell in. If God can come and live in flesh, and Jesus can live the life he did in the flesh we have been given, what does that say about the possibilities of us on the other side of salvation? God can do something powerful with the hands and toes and brains and legs that we've been given. God hallows, God makes holy the flesh that we have. The flesh that so often falls short, the flesh that is so prone to sin. God comes and dwells in our flesh that he can know our frustrations and our difficulties. He can know our ailments and our diseases. He can know our hurts, our fears, our anxieties, our restlessness, our sorrow, and even death. God can know the struggles of frailty and sin that we experience in this body that we have been given. And he overcomes. God comes and experiences our lowest lows and overwhelms and overcomes what this world has to throw at us. God has come as Immanuel to dwell with us and amongst us, not to show us that we should be doing it better, not to come and invade and to whack us off and to send us away. God comes to save us and not destroy us. God comes to save us, to work with us, to live like us, and to show us the possibilities of salvation through him. And he does so. God shows up in the most incredible way. Before he comes, he goes to a Mary and a Joseph, and he asks them for their yes before he comes. It seems to me that God could tear open the heavens and drop baby Jesus as an orphan into this world. It seems to me God could do this anyways, but he needs common, everyday people like you and me to hear the call of God in their life and say yes, to set them out on this trajectory. And this Jesus is come and born into the house of Mary and Joseph. Joseph is given this call and imagination that the Messiah is coming. God with us will be born into his household. And he needs to make room and space in his life for Jesus in order for the Messiah to be born according to God's plan. So it is with us today, now, here, in this moment. God is with us. In the form of Jesus sent by the Spirit, God is among us and with us at all times. He has been born into this world for our sake. And for God to fully work out his purposes in the world, just like Joseph, we're spoken to by the voice of God to say, make room for me. Make space for God in your life. Joseph had to do so ever so tangibly. He had to maneuver into Mary's life, being married when there was a pregnancy in complicated times. He had to start a household before he was ready, welcoming a child that wasn't fully his before he was prepared. He had to make space in his life for Jesus so that the world could be saved. So it is with us as well. The light of the world has come. He's come to you, not to invade your space, not to judge you in a way to make it more difficult, not to bring difficulty and agony to you. He has come to save you. He's come to make your life more abundant. In this world of darkness, the light of the world has come to you, and it asks once more, will you make space for me? Will you make room in your life for Jesus? And just like Joseph, we say yes or we say no. And our no may seem ever so simple, but our yes brings light into dark spaces. And who knows what others might experience the salvation of Jesus because the yes we say to him. So as we close out our service today, we're going to sing 2 songs with our candles lit. Each of you should have a candle on your seat. There's also a communion cup on your chair. We're not taking communion, but this is the solving of my science problem. So we don't want all of your COVID breath breathing all over the room, spitting everywhere, right? And so when we're done, when we finish singing Joy to the World, we're going to take this and snuff out our candle. It works beautifully. You don't even have to make contact. The oxygen breaks. It's a beautiful thing. You do you, buddy. I love having engineers around here. So the engineer wrote in and told me to do this. It works perfectly. But what we're going to do is practice what Joseph practiced and make it our own, okay? I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it over to the Christ candle, which we lit at the very beginning of the service, representing that God is born amongst us. And like Joseph, I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to receive the light of Christ. And then like Joseph, I'm going to pass it on as well. And think about this tonight as we're passing it around. Think of it as if you are receiving the light of the world into the darkness of what sin has done in our worlds and to your life. Receive the light of Christ and then turn and pass it on. And see it as a memory, as a representation, as a belief of what could happen when the people of God say yes to receive the light once more into their life, and how quickly the room could be overcome with the light of Jesus as we receive and we pass it on by simply saying yes to that which Christ would have us called to do as he comes into our life. Would you join me in singing and lighting candles as we close out today?
Silent night, holy night, Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, born at thy birth. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight. Glory streams from heaven afar. Heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. So we sing the second verse one more time, all together with just our voices. We say, Silent night.